I think we're finally live. All right. So today, let's get into it. I have in my past life, I did a lot of email development and design. That was kind of what I ran my business on. And so I have a lot of resources that are kind of left over. So what I wanted to do is just create a brand new site that I can put these resources out to help people, because email development is really hard. So if you don't know what I'm talking about, then it really is really tough. It's a totally different mindset. Seems easy, and then you realize actually it's its own little its own little problem. So I want to help people figure that out, and I want to use 11T. I have this up on the screen in just the browser. This is their website for the documentation for a static site generator. This is really cool because just in case you're not familiar with static site generators, the idea is, the internet is made up of a whole bunch of files. That's how it started. That's technically how it still is. Yeah, we have some frameworks that do some fancy stuff nowadays, but ultimately it's just a bunch of files, and you can actually do a lot more with static site generation as far as making it super quick to load, instead of having to load in JavaScript or do some fancy dynamic stuff on your client side, server side, whichever. So the idea here is we're going back to the roots, but making it easier, because the problem with normal plain HTML sites is that, yeah, it's really fast, it's really easy, you just upload files whenever you need to make a change, but the problem is, like, the nav bar, for one, like, you don't want to have to redo the nav bar every time you add like one little thing. You have to add it on every single page, and if you're not using PHP, there's no including, little pieces segments of footers, navs. Those are the two most common things that need to be on every page of your site. So static site generator, long story short, is a way to do kind of a blend between the plain HTML side, but also having some of the superpowers that a framework would offer. So since I really I'm just going to make a directory site here, just a couple of links, quite a few links, some content to help people kind of get into email development and design. And I don't need anything fancy. And then, of course, we can also connect this to our deconstructing Bootstrap, which we've been doing a lot on these live streams. If you happen to have been following some of my other live streams, I want to be able to make a totally fresh project for us to kind of really put in everything that we've learned together. So this will be the start. We're going to create a structure for this site. We're going to start from zero, and let's get to it. I'm on 11d.dev. That's their website. I really like 11d just because it's super fast, and I hope you'll see this and appreciate this as we go through it. All I'm going to do is go into I'm going to click this link, Get Starting Guide, and yeah, it's really fast. So basically, I'm going to be following this. So if you happen to be following along, this is where I'm getting my commands. I already made a project directory. There's nothing in it. This one has you add like a little, somewhere around there. It makes you can make files and stuff in the terminal or whatever. I'm just going to do it kind of the easy way. So I've already made the folder, and I'm just going to pop over to our code editor, which is, of course, Visual Studio Code. And I have some notes down here that I actually already scraped the commands, so that's what this is. We already made the folder. I'm already inside of the folder, so now all I have to do is run npm init, and I'm going to use -y to kind of skip all of the setup stuff. This is using Node.js, so you do have to have Node, at least I think it's version 14 or above, to use 11d. I'm on 16 or so probably a little out of date, but it still is fulfills the requirements. So I'm going to hit enter, and it's basically just you can see now in my folder, this is totally empty folder, templatized email, And then I've got my package JSON that it just created. So that's the first thing. And then after that, all I have to do really is let's install. We're going to install, which is right here, 11t. And it's going to be installed just in this folder. So I'm not going to install this globally, just to kind of keep things nice and neat. And hit enter, let that run. And we're going. Okay, there we go. So now we are finished. The only thing left to do now is actually just run the server. It's really cool. They give you a server, a local server that hot reloads. So every time you change the file, it rebuilds the site and lets you see your changes, which is really nice. So let's test it out. I'm going to grab the command here. Make sure you can see this. Yeah. There we go. So I'm going to paste that in there. It's just npx add 11d / 11t -- serve. Hit enter. And with any luck, we should have a server. So I'm gonna control click on this link, and we're gonna go back to Chrome, and we can see cannot get the index. And this is actually a good sign. This means that the server is working. I just haven't done anything yet to actually make it work. So what I'm gonna do is we're gonna set up some files now. So if I backtrack over here, I don't need the terminal anymore. I'm gonna leave that just kind of running in the background. And so we can see here's our file. We have 2 files in there. We have our node modules folder, and now it's time to set up the site structure. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna create a couple of folders first, because I know we're gonna need these. First one is going to be _includes, and that's for like I think it's like partial files and things that get included across the site. I think that's kind of the standard naming convention for that with 11t. And then the other thing is, I'm actually going to show you this. Let's see. Here's kind of my site. Oops. This is kind of my site structure, my architecture, if you will. So we've got a home page that's going to link. It's going to have all of these links right here. And then those, so if I go to the quick tips, it's going to have its own page content. And I haven't put them all in this canvas just because there was no reason to, but this kind of just helped me figure out how I want to like organize all of this stuff. So I'll probably need a resources like directory, and that'll be this box here with all of these other links. And then these other guys can kind of just be their own like off the domain directories. So anyway, let's go back to the code and get to it. So again, we're setting up our folders, right? So I'm gonna need a resources folder because that's gonna have like a ton of the kind of, I don't want to say random, but just less specific or less organized, maybe, where there's kind of just a lot of like tips and tricks that don't really match a single a single folder or single grouping, I guess. And obviously we can change this around when it makes more sense, because sometimes doing the infrastructure architecture like this, when I'm doing this so fast, sometimes it's easier just to build it and then fix it afterwards. And so I'm gonna need, these are gonna be resources. Yeah, I'm actually, that's the thing. I'm already thinking about it. Like, let's just put them all in resources. So that'll just be the domains/resources, and all of that's going to go into this folder. And so really, I think that's all for the 2 folders that we need. And then the last thing is, let's fix that cannot get the / error that we saw. And I'm just going to create a new file. I'm going to call this index.html for our home page so that we can actually see that it's working. Home page, I'm gonna save. This obviously is not gonna be like super valid, but hey, it's already working. It's grabbing the text that I just put on that index.html file, and it's already working. So we know that we haven't messed anything up just yet. So I'm gonna go back here, and what I want to do is, so a lot of times we want to start off right with, of course, our kind of boilerplate HTML stuff. We got our head, our body, but we don't want to quite do this here in the home page. We actually want to already set this up so that the includes take care of that stuff that is repeated over and over and over again, because a lot of the meta stuff is going to be the same. We're gonna change out the title, but all of this other stuff, it needs to be on every page, but we don't want to have it on all of these pages. Let's put that somewhere where we can edit in one place and then add to all of the other places that it needs to be. So I'm gonna delete this again because we don't actually want it there. I think we want it in, let me double check my notes. Yeah, we want it in our includes folder. I'm going to create a brand new file, and let's call it the base HTML.html. This kind of alludes to my Django background. Maybe other people do it. Sometimes you might call it layout.html. It doesn't really matter. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to set up our HTML boilerplate here. And yeah, I think the only thing left to do is I think we just need to put in curly braces here, content, and then up here in the title for like this is your meta title, right? This is how you change the tab name of your website page, of the web page that you're on your site. I'm also going to use curly braces and title, and these are going to be accessible to us because of what 11D allows us to do, which we'll go over in just a second. So I'm going to save this because we should be okay. Yeah, we should be okay just like that. So that's our base. We're gonna now need to do, you know what, let's, hold on. I gotta check my notes here because, oh yeah, that's right. So let's put this now in our home page just so that we can check to make sure that this is working before we get too far ahead. So I'm going to go back out to the index.html. Right now we have nothing in it. I deleted all of the stuff. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pop in what's called front matter, and all it is 3 dashes, then hit enter, and then you can add in little key value pairs. They're just little kind of like variables, and then the content of those things. So we can do layout is one that it comes with 11T that says, you know, what do you want to include for like the layout? What is the template here, right? So I'm gonna go layout colon, and then we're going to go back into what I call it base.html. And then I'm going to hit enter. Oops. And then you have to close off your front matter with, again, the 3 dashes right there. So then if I also add in, let's say, page stuff, we'll say that's the content here, right? So I'm gonna hit save. We're gonna go over to the server, and you can see it now says page stuff. Let's open up the inspect just to see if it's pulling in. Okay, so now we're pulling in HTML, that boilerplate stuff. It doesn't have a title because I didn't set one. And I think all we have to do to make that work is actually go in here and say, I think it's just title is, we'll call it templatize email. Save. If I go back and well, it's already refreshed, and hey, look, we've got a title, templatize email. So yeah, it is working now. So that's going to be, see, it's just really nice that we can already just kind of plug in some stuff here. We can already plug in a title for any of our detail pages. They're going to use front matter. We can automate some of it if it's going to be like the same, like a tag, for example. We'll probably hit that up in just a second. But this is where we can add some of those content pieces that need to be separated from maybe the main page stuff, because we can do like, you know, whatever we can do. Oops, what am I doing? Let's wrap this in like an H1, and then we can put in some lorem ipsum like paragraphs, and this will become the page content, right? Because that's kind of where we put it, is right beneath the body. We can see my H1 and my paragraph tag have come in, and again, that's just because in our base we say, hey, anything that's the content, you're going to stuff it right here, right after the body, and anything that's after the front matter is basically the content. So that's kind of how that works. Yeah, so that makes it really easy for long form content. And I really need to, I really don't have that much experience with 11D. So like I've done some experiments, but I've never done an actual site. So this is where we're going to start learning together, right? Is figuring out how do we break apart pieces so that we can have kind of like a normal site where not everything is a long form article, right? So I'm going to have a home page with a bunch of links to other pages, for example. And so that's something that we need to work on. We need to figure out how we can do little pieces of content within the page. So for example, if I go back over here to Obsidian, right here, my content is structured in a way that honestly it could be kind of like a bunch of cards in this quick tips page. So there we go. There we go. So each of these has some expandable content that would be like the card content. So I need to be able to figure out, how do I make a card? How do I include that in the right page? Yeah, so that's what we're doing, right? So I just want to give you that heads up of like kind of where I want to take this. And yeah, let's see. So what's next? We've got our home page. We do need to set up our child pages for the resources. So let's go ahead and do that. We're going to go into VS Code. Let's go into resources, and I think, let's see. Yeah, I think what we want to do is start creating like kind of like this index.html. We're going to start creating those child pages, those detail pages. So for example, quick tips is one that I know we need. So I'm going to create a new file. I'm going to call it, quick-tips. That's kind of going to be the slug. And I think I actually want it to be a markdown file. Let's start with that. And yeah, so anyway, the way that 11D works, at least out of the box, is the directory here is resources. So it's going to be your domain /resources/quick tips, for example. And then what we're going to do is let's throw in our front matter. And I'm going to do layout is, again, that base.html. Hit save, and let's just call it quick tips Oops. Quick tips like that. And then this can be an H1 as well, just so we can, oops, wrap H1. Okay, save that. And then I think we might be able to do this already. So let's try, I'm gonna add /resources to my URL and hit enter. Okay, so I can't get resources. So I need to double check what I did here. Let's actually just pop in over here to the documentation. Hold on. All right, so let's see. I know that I need oh, you know what? That also may be, let's see. Yeah, I don't even know where to, let's see, hold on. Okay. So we've got our, oh, you know what? I think it's probably because, of course, I just put in /resources for the URL, and we don't have a resources like list page. So I actually want to add a /quick-tips. Okay, that's what I did wrong. I was like, I'm sure I did it right. Okay, so let's see. I don't think you can see my URL bar, but I'll copy that for you so you can see in here. All right, so basically what I did wrong is I was putting in the URL, I had left this part off, which is the slug, right? This specific page. So I just had resources like this, and there's no resources page. Actually, yeah, that's a good question, is how do we get that? So like, what if we want there to be a list page for resources rather than just /quick tips? Like, you know, we need some kind of index thing here, right? So I think we can just add in probably an index.html. And again, we can do our layout. You know what? I'm actually just gonna grab this, and we'll put this as resources. And I'll put it one more time down here. Let's see if that works. So I'm gonna get rid of quick tips in my URL. Hit enter. Okay, there we go. so now we know how that works. So yes, it's just kind of, it really is just like if you had a straight up plain HTML on like a file server somewhere. It literally just is the basics of, you know, I have a directory, and then I have my index, which is the file at this directory, and then anything that's like / whatever after this directory is going to be these other guys right here, with this file name becoming the URL, or the slug, excuse me. Okay, so that's much better. So if I look back at my Obsidian here, we need troubleshooting guides, video tutorials. So let's hurry and grab all of that. I'm gonna copy this, and we're gonna just do like troubleshooting guides.md, paste that in, and hit save, and then one more. Let's do videos. Videos. Let's actually just call it tutorials. And again, we can just do this videos, and tutorials. Cool. So now that we have a couple of these, we can try out that it's called collections, which is what we need to be able to link from one page to all of these other pages, because how do we get to these, right? So if we go back to our index here, our resources, let's see. I believe the way you do this is with tags. Now, there is one more cool thing with 11t that I have not tested out just yet, but I want to. So in this resources folder, we can actually add in a JSON file. I'm going to call it the exact same name as the directory, so it's going to be resources.json. JSON. How do you say it? I'm curious. I say it both ways, just whatever comes out. So we have our JSON file, and we're just going to make curly braces. And what we're going to do is basically automate the front matter. So we're going to apply front matter that goes on every single one of the pages on resources. So for example, we have been copying and pasting a layout. This is going to be the same on all of our, usually the template is the same on anything in that directory anyway. So I'm going to grab this. We're going to go back to our JSON, and then we're gonna pop this in here. I'm going to put in quotes around the key and value, so it can be valid JSON. And so now we should see, we might be, let's see, how can we make sure that we can see this? I will go in and let's go into the base and say like, we're just going to throw in an H1. This is definitely going away, but this is proof of template. So if I hit save, technically, yeah, okay, so now we have all of, every page we go to should probably have this. So if I go back to the home page, yep. Now every single page has this silly little headline. So, oh, does this one not? Okay, there we go. Just had to refresh. And yes, so we're going back here. So we know for sure that this will work if the template is included. And so if I go back to, let's say, resources and get rid of this, hit save, go back to Chrome. I'm going to go to our resources page, refresh. Okay, so it's not working right now, right? It's because I haven't saved the JSON file. So this is perfect to test if it actually is including. And I'm going to go here to JSON, and I'm going to save because I think that's all you have to do. And we go back and it's back. So now we know that it is rendering the base template, and that means what we should be able to do is actually get rid of the layout line here on all of those pages that we had to do. And that way we don't have to constantly be updating this, reduce as many things that are going to be the same, right? Keep things dry. Don't repeat yourself. So let me make sure we got all of them. Save. Yeah. And that's super cool. So now we know that we can, we have some power to add front matter settings to all of our pages in a directory with this JSON. And what I think we can do as well, and this will help us get the links to all of these child pages if we want to list them out on the resources page or the home page, we're gonna use tags, which again I believe comes out of the box with 11D. I think that's the way that they the convention there. we're gonna test this in just a second, and I'm just gonna call it this will just be a resource. So it could be whatever you want here. I'm just going to call it the singular of whatever this directory is, because that makes sense to me for right now. And then what we should be able to do is actually go into, so here's our resources page. Let's say we want to have a link to all of the child pages, all of those like /resources /quick tips /resources /troubleshooting guide. We want to grab all of those and list them out in a link list so that people can actually get to those pages, right? So I am here. We are going to use the templating. I believe Liquid is just the default templating system, and you can actually see that. Let's see. Oh yeah, so right here in my terminal, it shows you that Liquid is already being used. That's just like the templating engine, and I really like it, again, because I have, my background is in Django, mostly, at least for the last, almost 5 years, somewhere around there. So I love Django, and I love that Liquid is modeling a lot of the same like syntax and everything, so it makes it really easy for me to just kind of port my base knowledge and just do it here. So what I'm gonna, I'll show you what I'm talking about here. We're gonna do a for loop. So we're gonna use the curly braces with % signs, and we're inside here we're gonna say for, and I'll just say let's do page in, and then I think we have to do collections dot resource. So what that is referring to is, again, this little tag that we just set up. So I'm not sure why it's called collections and this is called tags, but I think that's correct. We're gonna see if I'm right. And then of course we just do we have to end the for loop here with, again, the curly brace with parentheses or %, end for in the middle of those. And then inside here is where we're going to output the information. So let's say we want to do like, let's just do a little list item, right? So we have a list item, and it's also going to have a link. And the link, what we can do is do double curly braces this time. And since I called it page up here in the for loop, I'm going to grab that and say page.url, and hopefully this will work. Let's do one more thing. Let's add a title for this link so we can actually see it on the screen, and we'll do post. Oh, and this one, okay, so we have the title in the front matter, and this is going to be unique to each page because each page is going to need its own title, right? So we're actually going to grab this from post.data.title because we have to access that front matter is how I've understood it. And so we're going to output the title, and it's going to be wrapped in a link. And then the last thing is I just need a UL just to make valid code here. And so we're going to have a list. Inside of that list, we're going to have as many list items as we do pages. And let's try, oh, actually, I found a typo already. Post, it should be page because that's what I put here. So page, it should be consistent naming. Page is our for loop variable. Page.url, page.data.title. Okay. So I'm going to save, and let's try popping over to our resources page, and we can see quick tips is already there. That worked. Oh, gotta refresh there. I'm not sure why resources is showing up. That might have to be something that we figure out. Troubleshooting guides, and then video tutorials, which are all of those markdown files that we just barely made, which is awesome. The only thing is, it's picking up that what's it called? Oh, you know what? Ooh, I guess that does make it hard if your list page, because what I think it's doing is, since it's inheriting this too, because obviously it's got our this is our base template, right? So it's inheriting this tag, and so it's being counted as a collection inside of that. So that's going to be something I'll have to look up, and I may not get to that in this live stream, but we will have to find a way to exclude a page or two, or maybe if there's some way to, maybe it shouldn't be indexed right inside of there. I don't know how else you would do that, unless, I don't know, maybe we can override it with like tags. I don't know, let's just put none just to see if that helps, and then hit no. So I don't know what to do to get rid of that from that list. However, this does work really well for the home page, for example. If I wanted to just have all of it, let's see. Yeah, well, that'll be something we solve another day, right? But for now, this is really cool to have. So we have our structure, right? We have at least a resources page where we have those couple of like child pages in there. The next thing I want to tackle in this live stream, at least, is let's try and figure out how to grab one of these cards here that I have. So if we go back into Obsidian, let's try and make this little card. So how to write an email with a link, that's one card. Responsive URLs is another card. And I want to be able to add those to a child page like quick tips. So I want to be able to have these little segments of content be pulled in automatically, so that I can just have little chunks of information that just kind of add to the page over time. Hopefully this will make more sense in just a second. So let's tackle quick tips. And I'm going to go back in here. So, all right. So we know we can include stuff, right? We can include our layout across things, pages, the entire page of the entire website. And I know that we can do, let's go back to the 11 documentation. I thought there was, let's see. Anyway, let's just give it a shot with what we already know. So I won't bore you with reading documentation on this. What I want to do is let's create an include that is just the card. So it's not going to have the content, right? It's just going to be the layout of a card, basically. So I'm going to put a new file into this includes folder. I'm going to call it info.card.html. And basically all I'm going to do here is we're going to have a div.card. It's going to have a title. And then it's going to have some content. And I'm going to put that in a div. I don't want to put it in a paragraph just in case there are times when we actually need a couple of paragraphs in here. So I actually have found that, at least for templating, using a div is a little bit less invasive and less problematic for random content. Because it could have one paragraph, that could be the standard, but what if somebody wants another paragraph, right? So we don't want to force it into a paragraph tag here because then it makes things really awkward, whether there's break tags, which aren't ideal, or if there's a paragraph in the middle of it, it makes things really, really wonky on the as far as like valid HTML. So I am gonna do that, and then I could, we can have a placeholder for an image. Probably not going to solve this one on this live stream, but those are the basics of what a card is to me. We have image, the title, description, and then and yeah, I think that's probably it. So I'm gonna save. Let me just double check here. And yeah, we can already probably just throw in the title here, because I think what we can do is actually do, oh, you know what? We might be able to do title and content, because we're just going to pull those out of the front matter for the title, and then the content is whatever's inside the, that card. That's inheriting this info card. So I think we can just pop that in right here, and I'll hit save. Okay, now this is where it's gonna be, we're gonna see if this works. I'm gonna go to quick tips, and yeah, I'm just trying to figure out, let's see. I don't know what the best way to structure this is. However, I do think I could do a folder here inside of resources. I'm just going to call it like the info cards. And then, so this doesn't have to be part of the slug. I hope. I'm not totally sure. Again, this will be something we'll have to solve later as far as like invalidating something, so it doesn't try to like, basically, I want this to 404 if somebody tries to access this, because I don't want this to be part of the site structure. But I do want it to pull in, or to house the content for all of these little teeny pieces of content. That way we can pull them in for the entire page, or for, maybe a featured things sometime later on, where we want to pull them out and use them throughout the site. Kind of like its own database is what I'm thinking. And so I'm gonna add one more. We'll do one of the first ones. Let's just do responsive URLs.md. And I know that I need front matter with a title, right? Because we already put that as the card, as one of those little variables for the card. This will be responsive URLs. And then I'm going to end the front matter, and then we're going to have some content. So I'm just going to copy this from Obsidian here. Cool. And then I'm going to hit save. Now, how do we pull this in? I think it's going to be fairly similar to what we did with the resources. So I think we want to have another JSON file inside of this info card, so that we can say that, hey, these are a collection. This is a collection, right? These are all the same type. They're all going to be based off of that info card template that we created. So I'm going to call it info cards.json and paste that in, and then I'm going to just change the layout to info-card.html, and then the tags will be, it'll just be an info card, like that. And so I think hopefully what we can do is we can grab this for loop. I'll just grab all of this from our resources page. But this time we're going to go into quick tips, because this is the content for quick tips. So I kind of want to be able to build it out so it automatically just pulls in all of these cards that match. And actually that means we probably want a different ooh, yeah. Okay, we'll solve that in just a second because we need to make sure this actually works. So, okay, so I'm going to call it, this time I'm going to change this to card just so that I can understand this easier when I come back to it. For card in collections dot, instead of resource, we called it info dash card. And then everything else, I think we don't need a link. So I'm going to get rid of that. Oops. And actually, let's see. Do I just do card? I wonder if I can just do card because it has the structure already. I don't need any of this. Like, I don't need to create the structure again, right? Because we already have the HTML in that template. So I'm going to see what it outputs if I just hit card. I'm going to save. We're going to go back here. Okay, so it is giving me an object, so that's good at least, I think. So maybe let's do card.content. This is where I'm really not sure if that'll... Okay, oh yeah, so, okay, this is perfect. This is exactly what I was hoping for. So this is the content that we copied into the info card for this guy. All that's the same. This is perfect. And that also means that in here we could do like, oh, and yeah, that's true actually. So how do we get it to display inside of its layout? So let me double check what this looks like here. So I want to make sure that it's showing the, okay. So it's not, oh, and I don't need the UL. But yeah, it's not quite doing what I was hoping. It is getting the content, but I need it to pull in the content within a template, right? So we already had this template where it had like the div of class content and the title. Oops. So that may be something that we have to solve. Not sure if we want to do this now, if it's been too long, but okay, we don't need the UL because, again, I'm trying to get this to not have to use any structure. I just want it to pull in. Infocard.html, that's correct. So yeah, we're missing all of this structure here. And I'm not sure how we're going to solve this one without having to, again, kind of bore you with some of the templates. So I don't know. Let's try. I'm just wondering if we can just take a look at one of these. Here's a GitHub for just like a starter template. We have content, blog. All right. Oh, interesting. He has a, okay. Okay. That's, This is interesting because he's using a folder, or yeah, I'm assuming sorry. He's using a folder for his post that happens to have a little bit of extra content, that image, whereas, you know, we've been just doing this single markdown, and he's got this fourth post as a folder. So let's see what the data looks like. Tags is post, layout is post. See if anybody is doing anything like, actually, yeah, sitemap might help us, maybe not. Collections.all. Okay. Date age. And this may be a different, yeah, it's because it's nunjuck, so it may not be exactly the same, but I'm just trying to figure out if there's some way that we can pull in kind of like an include file, you know, where we've got our template, we've got our data, and then we mash them together and put them inside of a page. That's really what I'm trying to do here. And I'm not sure we're going to find this really fast. So cool thing is again, if we just, let's just wrap up kind of what we have been doing here. We've been able to create oh, hey, look, responsive URLs. Oh, okay, so this, oh, well, that's interesting. Okay, so now this, I'll copy this URL just so you can see it. This page is the card. Oh, it does have the card stuff, so it is actually working. The problem is it created its own like this became the subdirectory. So what the URL is this. So we were in resources, and then it's throwing in info cards and then responsive URLs. That's the card we tried to make. And I'm betting since it has been pulled in, it's probably pulling in resources, this resource tag, because it's underneath resources. And so this apparently applies to like everything in this folder. And then info cards kind of became its own subdirectory with, again, our actual card in there. So it is kind of working. I just wanted this stuff to actually populate inside of here, underneath the quick tips heading. So I will have to solve for that. But I think this is still a good stopping point. We've done a lot of really cool stuff. We have a website that's pretty much, you know, ready to go as far as like stuffing in content. As soon as I figure out those couple of things, we need to figure out how to make sure that list page doesn't show up inside of its own list page. So like right here with the resources, we don't want it to show up again. So I need to figure that out. And then I also need to figure out how to pull in these content pieces into another page. I think they call it chaining, include chaining. So I don't know if maybe that's part of the answer as far as the documentation. So I'll have to solve for that. But otherwise, we have a really good foundation of, you know, I can just now create a bunch of markdown files. And really, since I used Obsidian, I'm already halfway there. So I just need to copy all of those into the structure. And then as soon as I have all of that populated, then we can go in and, we can start styling it up and creating our own Bootstrap framework for this own little site. Because it really is, it's a really short site. It's supposed to be super helpful and just, you know, list out all of these resources. And so this is a great starting point to be able to go from nothing to having some content and structure to creating our own Bootstrap-like SaaS framework. And ultimately, I want to be able to have a framework that I can just always have in the back of my pocket so that when I have a project, I can start fresh, grab all of this code, these mix-ins, things that we'll be consistently using, and be able to just get right into the actual styles instead of having to always fiddle around with, you know, oh, do we use Bootstrap, or, you know, how do I reset up a grid system again? You know, I want to automate all of this. So that's the ultimate vision if you're sticking around. But I really appreciate having you here today. Hopefully this has been helpful for you, and we will see you around on the next one.